Now, I did promise we would never talk about the Acolyte, but this story came out, and Lee Jung-jae, did I say that right? Lee Jung-jae?
Well, first of all, this headline is wrong. It's Lee Jung-jae discusses the Acolyte.
Okay. Let me share screen, and we'll read a little bit of the story. Alan, you can maybe bring it up on your own screen. Lee Jung-jae returns for another round of Squid Game. I was pulled back into hell. But he does talk about, I didn't know this, he was a model. The model turned actor turned a global superstar on his trailblazing 3-decade career, from his historic Emmy win to facing down racist comments from Star Wars fans to reliving trauma for Squid Game Season 2 by Paul Chi. This is from Vanity Fair. Alan, if you would read the story.
Oh, you want me to read the whole thing or just the part?
Just the part, if you can find it.
Yeah, here we go. Following his historic wins, Lee continued trailblazing as the first Asian to play a Jedi Master in the Disney Plus Star Wars series, The Acolyte, a part that also marked Lee's first English-speaking role. The show's cast included Amanda Stenberg, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Manny Jacinto, and was led by showrunner Leslie Headland, making it one of the franchise's most diverse projects. But some of the Acolyte cast members faced racist and hateful online harassment from toxic Star Wars fans outraged over the show's inclusion of diverse characters. My feelings were hurt, Lee admits when asked about the experience after taking a pause, especially for Leslie Headland. Her feelings must have hurt a lot. Though Lee was aware of the passionate Star Wars fandom, he was still shocked by the racist backlash. The series was canceled in August, meaning the first season's multiple cliffhangers will never be resolved. Despite the divisiveness of today's culture, Lee has a positive attitude toward the future. I can only have faith that racism will someday end, he said, even though it's going to be hard. Lee is also optimistic that viewers will revisit The Acolyte. For some work, it will take time to gain traction. I have strong hopes that people will like it as time passes, he says.
All right. Well, I appreciate your interpretive reading of his statements there. Look, he is not to blame for the failure of that show. I think he did a fine job, and most would agree that he was an actor.
Yeah.
He was the best thing in it. He had gravitas. He seemed to care. Mm-hmm. He was believable, and they turned him into a villain by the end. I'm sorry, spoilers. He was a villain by the end, somehow trying to stop OSHA and May's agency, and that sort of they turned him into kind of a creep. So I think, we've long discussed all the failings of The Acolyte. Probably the worst thing that Disney has produced using the Star Wars banner. But what's your take on his comments?
Okay, so my issue is with this sentence. But some of the Acolyte cast members face racist and hateful online harassment. You know, if you've been watching us talk about this, it had nothing to do with the race, had nothing to do with hatred for the actors, but it had to do with the fact that this show killed Star Wars. This show killed Star Wars lore. And what saddens me is I think they basically told him that, that the critics were being racist against it, and that's why he reacts the way he is. No one is willing to take a step back and really consider what was truly wrong with The Acolyte, and they have to be lazy and they have to make villains out of the fans by just saying that we were being racist. It, again, had nothing to do with the race of the main character, May and Osha. Had nothing to do with the race of Master Soul. It had to do with the story and what it did to Star Wars lore. And and that's, and I feel bad that he thinks that it is racism that people didn't like this show.
I think that the interviewer baited him into saying this. I really believe that I don't think that, did the actors really face like those kind of, I didn't really see that. I think people put the blame on Leslie Headland, the creator.
Yeah, they hated
think more than anything.
the show, and they hated the story, because I can guarantee you no one would have said anything about this. No one would have said anything racist about Billy D. Williams had Star Wars been done in a time of social media.
That's the thing. Like when you look at Star Wars fans over the decades, okay?
Mhm.
Decades. People loved Sam Jackson as Mace Windu in the prequels.
Mhm.
People loved Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian in the original trilogy.
And people loved Newt Gunray as the first Asian character in a Star Wars movie.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Oh.
But I'm just saying, there have been, why is it now that the fans are kind of dissatisfied with what the films have become and the series have become, like now suddenly they're racist when they weren't. And I remember this. I remember people clamoring for Billy D. Williams to return in the Star Wars sequels. Where was he? They brought back Luke, Han, Leia. They didn't bring back Lando. People were begging, bring back Lando into the sequels. So those same fans are racist. And same thing with
to that point, he shows up in the last movie because of fan outcry.
Right.
You know, I don't think there was any intention of bringing him back in until fans spoke up and wanted him back.
People love the classic characters, but I mean, you can't call them fans 1 minute, passionate fans, and racist because they don't like a show. They don't like it. And I think all this is manufactured. I think it's BS.
Yeah.
And I don't blame Lee Jung-jae was just responding to what he was asked.
He's very diplomatic in his response.
Yes, he is. He is very diplomatic. And by the way, I can't wait for Squid Game season 2. I'm gonna rewatch season 1.
I haven't watched it. I'm gonna watch Squid Games 1 and see how it goes. But the point I wanted to make is the problem with Star Wars, with Lucasfilm and Star Wars today, is they don't know what the problem is. You know, if your car is broken, the best thing to do is to figure out what's wrong with it and then fix the problem. But when you chase the wrong problem, when you chase the wrong symptoms, your car is never going to get fixed. So if you honestly believe that Star Wars is failing because fans are racist, it shows that you have no clue as to what's wrong with Star Wars and why people aren't resonating with it.